Good morning. Good morning. This is Mark, and this is our English devotional this morning. And just wanted to tell you about his transcendent power this morning. It's going to be a great one. So let's jump right into it. We got Mark chapter 5 tells the story about a man, a master of a synagogue, leader of a synagogue. His daughter is very sick at the point to die. And so they ask him to come, and it's in Christ. He already knew that the girl was going to die on the way, and so he's on his way. And as he's going through the crowd and the multitude, there's a woman with an issue of blood, and she touched him. Now here's the point. There's so many people just attacking Christ at the same time, and just compacted against him. And this lady says, Christ says, in the midst, while everyone's touching him, he says, "Who touched me?" Somebody touched me. And his disciples respond, "Well, everybody's touching you, man." And so there's all kinds of people touching you. And he says, "No, someone's touched me. I've perceived that virtue has gone out of me." And sure enough, there's a woman there, and she was healed because she touched Christ with faith. And touching the hem of his garment with faith, and she was healed. Now, while she was healed, there was another woman. While she was healed, there was a messenger that came up to him to advise him that the girl had already died. And so we'll pick it up from right there. But before we get into it, I want to say, if you're with me, I can't see you unless you comment. I can't see any icons with this program. But if you're with us, by all means, please comment. And we're going to get into the story, talking about Christ's transcending power, his transcendent power. And brother, this is going to be a blessing. All right, so we have Mark chapter 5 and verse number 35. It says, while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, "Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further?" And this is very common for people with grief and a great sorrow. You're trying to, "Hey, Brother Bain, good morning." Good morning, Brother Bain. And people with great sorrow, they have a hard time. Anyone trying to help them, they want to say, "You know what? Don't bother me anymore," because their help just didn't reach. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't enough. Their help just wasn't enough. As a pastor, we get this a lot as pastors, but also moms and dads get it from their children. When you're offering your help and your help just doesn't seem to be enough for the child, they respond with anger. They say, "You know what? That's enough. Don't bother me anymore. Don't bother me anymore." And so on. And now these people thinking Christ was late to help the child. He wasn't late at all. He wasn't late at all. And a lot of times when he comes to us, we want to say, "You know what, God, don't help me anymore." It's you weren't there, but really he was. He is waiting for the time and the perfect time to help us that shows his power over our power. And Christ is never late, although even sometimes it seems like he is, but he's not. And so what did Christ say to him in verse number 36? He said, "As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe." Oh, I love that. Only believe. Okay, I'm not going to sing it for you. Sorry. But it says he noticed that their anger and their frustration with Christ was because of fear. They feared that they were too late and they couldn't help her. But Christ knew he could help them. And he said to him, he says, "Don't be afraid." Our fear will always hinder our faith, but we can overcome fear with faith. And he said, "Listen, be not afraid. Only believe. Only believe." And that's a solution to just about all of our problems if we'll just believe more. And so on and goes. He comes to the house and he says, verse number 39, he says, "And when he was come in, he saith unto them, Why make ye this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth." Now she was dead, but Christ knew better. She wasn't going to stay dead, so she's asleep. And so he could see something that they couldn't see. And now what happened? It says, and they laughed him to scorn. They laughed him to make fun of him. They just, who's this guy, man? What does he know? And so, but what did Christ do? He says, but when he had put them all out, he took the father and the mother of the damsel and them that were with him and entered in where the damsel was lying. And he only had one of his disciples with him, Peter. And so this is great, because what did he do? He took everyone who didn't believe and just pushed them out of the house, and they weren't able to be witnesses of this great miracle. And verse number 41 shows his transcendent power. Here we go. And sorry about the car alarms going off outside. It says, and he took the damsel by the hand, verse number 41, and said unto her, Talitha Kumi. And the first time I read that, I thought that was her name. Hello, Talitha Kumi. And but it's not. Anyway, Talitha Kumi, which is being interpreted, damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And I love that, because he's saying to her, recognize who's talking. This is God in the flesh. This is the one who has full authority over the physical realm and over the spiritual realm. And realize, since Genesis chapter 1, it has always been that the spiritual realm influences over the physical realm, whether it be the spirit of adversity or the spirit of Christ. It is always that way. We are subject physically in all of our physical body and all of our physical life, and the elements of this earth are all subject to spiritual influences. And so he says to her, and his transcendent power, what does transcendent means? It means to go beyond. And his words with transcendent power were able to go beyond the body of this dead girl, and was able to go beyond her dead body and reach over to the other side and to call her back. And she came back. And she came back. And then this verse 42 says she was only 12 years old. Everyone was astonished. And while they're astonished, Christ says, hey, somebody get her something to eat. And in verse number 43. But this girl here, Christ said to her, hey, damsel, which is, child for a girl. He says, damsel, I say unto thee, arise. He's saying, recognize who's talking to you, and understand that Christ's words and his power are transcendent. They are transcendent beyond all that we know or think. And his transcendent power can overcome our sin and the condemnation of sin. Now, sin always has a consequence, but he can overcome the consequence, the condemnation of our sin. We don't have to be condemned with our sin. We don't have to be condemned with it. He can overcome that, and he can overcome the sin in our lives as well. And you may be thinking, you know what? I got to sin and I can't overcome it. Of course you can't. But Christ's power through Christ's word can overcome it, because he said it. It's because basically we could title this lesson, Look Who's Talking. But I don't want to have a movie reference for my devotional. Okay. So, but basically it's, look who's talking. Christ is talking. And because Christ is saying it, he's saying to this little girl, because I'm talking to you, arise. Because it's me saying this to you, arise. And she had to recognize that authority. Everyone has to, that Christ has all authority. And not only can it help us overcome our sin and overcome the condemnation of sin, but this transcendent power can increase our faith. Verse number 36, we're already hitting on the topic of faith before he comes. And because certain were able to believe, they were able to stay with him. Excuse me. They were able to stay with him and to see his mighty power. And he said to him, be not afraid, only believe. And Christ's words can give us greater faith. But that's the problem. We've got to make sure that we're hearing those words. And we're always hearing those words, always hearing that voice. And with that word, we can have greater faith to overcome. And whether it be sin or whether it be trial or tribulation, whatever it is in your life, you can overcome it with Christ's transcendent power. And so let's go on here to Proverbs. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 24 and verse number 16. And every Christian should be familiar with this verse. It says, "For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. And riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief." Now, there's 2 people that are falling here. The just man falls and the wicked fall. But when the just man falls, he gets up again. The wicked man falls, he stays down. He stays down. How many Christians have said, you know what? I've tried reading my Bible and I can't keep doing it. I tried praying, but it just, I didn't see anything happening, so I quit. And the wicked man is always quitting. The just man is always getting up again. And so the wicked quit, the just man gets up again. The just man, doesn't matter how many times he fails in his character or in sin or in his diligence, he's going to get up, he's going to dust himself off like a baseball player, and he's going to keep going. He's going to keep getting up and keep going, because that's what a just man does. And that's why the Bible is able, now a person who's wicked falls into sin and says, you know what, this is just who I am. This is just, how many times have you heard that from someone that wants to make an effort to justify themselves? They just say, well, this is just who I am. It doesn't have to be who you are. It doesn't have to be. You can get up again and you can rise up again. And that's what the just do. And that's why the Bible is able to say in Proverbs chapter 4 and verse number, I want to say 18. Yes, it's 18. And it says right here, it says, "But the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day." And why? Because he's constantly getting up, and because he constantly gets up, he constantly improves, because he keeps getting up. He's constantly improving and improving. And that's all God can ask for us, is that we improve. We're always in the right direction, getting up and improving. And his path is shining bright and bright for others to follow until the perfect day, until this man is able. Now listen, as long as you have this flesh, you're going to struggle and you're going to get down, but don't you stay down. You get up and you get up until every time you stumble, it's not as bad as the time before, and you keep going, my brother. Keep going. And so on and on we go here. Yes, his transcendent power can help us overcome sin in our life. His transcendent power can help us increase in faith. And every time you get up, you gain a little bit more faith, and you go a little bit further, and you get a little bit more faith. And his transcendent power can help us overcome even our physical limitations. And that's what it's all about. How many times has God showed us in the Bible that those by faith can overcome physical limitations? I look at my own dad, Kyle Rader, and how my dad has overcome so many things. When he overcame COVID, he already had kidney problems, he had diabetes, he had all kinds of other ailments, and so on and so forth. And the doctor just looks at him and says, you know what? There's no reason why you should be alive. You should be dead. You should be dead. There's no reason why you should have overcame COVID. Then he just looked at him and says, well, first of all, thank you for the encouragement. And you have a wonderful bedside manner. And he just says, listen, I got God. I got God on my side. And when you got the Lord, that's all you need, brother. And so, listen, God wants to help us overcome our physical limitations, but understand that this transcendent power are only for those that believe, only for those that believe. And to conclude, I want to take you over here to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians in chapter 6 and verse number 14. And thanks for staying with me, Brother Bain. God bless you, man. And so 1 Corinthians 6:14 says, and God hath both raised up the Lord and will also raise up us by his own power. I love it. Oh, I love it. Sorry, I'm reading it kind of slow here, going back and forth from English. It says, and God hath both raised up the Lord and will also raise up us by his own power. He says, and will. That shows his determination, as we talked about yesterday. Raise us up by his own power, not by our power, by his power. And if we can have faith that God will raise us from the dead by his power, understand that that same power over the physical realm to even raise up the dead is available for us now in our lives, to raise up that just man, to quicken his heart, to raise up and to even do more and to do more. We got to humble ourselves. We got to obey him. We got to follow him. And that's how you follow that transcendent power. That little girl had to listen to Christ's voice from beyond the grave and recognize his authority, humble herself to his authority, and follow back to her own body, back to life in the physical realm, because his word has transcendent power. And if we will humble ourselves to follow his word and to obey him and to follow him, he can overcome all with his power in our lives. And I just wanted to leave that with you. If that was a blessing to you, by all means, share it along. Thanks for being with me this morning, and I hope this was a blessing to you. Brother Bain, thanks for being with me. Listen, if you're ever with me on these broadcasts, brother, just leave a comment, and I can see who's with me if you're out there. And so thank you so much for being with me this morning, Brother Bain. God bless you. I hope you have a great day. And from Peru, ciao.